Let me ask you something. Do you know how much money your father's company pays for a picture of a child killed by a creature? $50,000. Do you know how much money I get paid for a picture of a happy child? Nothing. Do you know where that puts me? Photographing tragedy. Monsters is up next on Rediscovered Movies. Hello, my name is Nomfanelo. I am your host of Rediscovered Movies, where overlooked movies, whether mainstream, independent, or somewhere in between, are discussed to be rediscovered for your viewing pleasure. Hello, welcome to a brand new episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo, and the film that I will be talking about is Monsters. Monsters is a 2010 sci-fi horror film that's written and directed by Gareth Edwards, who is known for doing the 2014 film Godzilla and Rogue One. The film stars Scoot McNairy and Whitney. Here is the synopsis. 6 years after the crash of a NASA space probe, a large area between Mexico and the U.S. is under quarantine, while Mexican and American military forces fight a losing battle with the giant creatures who now live there. While covering the conflict, a photojournalist, played by Scoot McNairy, gets uncomfortably close to the action when he escorts his boss's daughter, played by Whitney, through the zone to the U.S. border. The film has a 73% critic score at Rotten Tomatoes, so here's what they have to say through the consensus. It doesn't quite live up to its intriguing premise, but Monsters is a surprising blend of alien invasion troops, political themes, and relationship drama. Audience, however, gave it 53%. With the $500,000 budget, the film made, during its theatrical run, over $5 million worldwide. And it was released in theaters on October 29, 2010, limited, expanding as weeks went on. So the film is available to stream on Amazon Prime and on video on demand, so check your local listings. First discoveries. So I first learned about this movie after seeing a movie called Killing Them Softly back in 2012 in theaters at the time, which featured Scoot McNairy. So I thought he did a good job with that movie, so I decided to do some research on what films he has done up to that point. And he has done mainly like commercials, like TV, and a lot of indie projects. And I didn't watch this film at the time, but when I was researching on films to cover for this season, this film came up because I was looking for, underrated sci-fi films, which this movie was on the list. And yeah, during first watch, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie because it was, yes, it's low budget, but at the same time, it's not one of those sci-fi movies where it's all about spectacle, which you see a lot with current sci-fi films. So I loved how it was, very like grounded, like it was gritty at times. And yeah, honestly, it wasn't what I expected just based on the title and the premise alone. Because yes, it does have like monsters, but really it's more focused like on, you could say, like the aftermath like of the monsters in that world, and also too like the journey of our main characters and what they have to go through to get to the US. So I loved how it has like a documentary like feel to it, with like the cinematography and the found footage format, like most notably like during the opening sequence. So also too, I liked how it's very like character driven, because like I said, with this genre, that tends to be lost as they want to focus more on like action sequences. So yeah, like I thought like Gareth Edwards, he did amazing job with this movie. Let's start with highlights. The performances from our two leads were fantastic. So with Scoot McNairy's character, Andrew, so he is essentially photographing all like the aftermaths of like the alien attacks like for money, because that's what sells, unfortunately. But he also has this subplot where he contacts his son Tommy to wish him happy birthday, but he reveals that Tommy doesn't know that he is his father, because with his ex decided to tell Tommy, that he's not the father for unknown reasons. But we see like he has some struggles because he does some drinking when he is in Mexico with Sam, and he sleeps with a woman which makes Sam jealous. But with that, like when that happened, the woman that apparently stole the passports, which creates conflict as they needed to travel. But Sam, she decides to pawn off her engagement ring in order to get across the border. And so yeah, like obviously like Scoot McNairy, he does a good job with his character arc. With Sam, like I feel like with her character, it's kind of easy for it to go over the top because she is the boss's daughter who is let's just say like he's rich, but yeah, she's kind of like grounded, I guess, in this movie because we see clearly that with their conversations, the father is very like controlling, and she seems to not love her fiance. So with her character type, it's easy to go like left, but I like how with the writing and with the acting, it doesn't go that way. And clearly we see like they have good chemistry, and as they are the only actors in the film, because if the chemistry wasn't there, then the film would not have worked. And I liked like with when they have their kiss like towards the end of the movie, like it felt strong, obviously, with their bond. Another highlight is the opening sequence. So it has like this scroll of the text to let the audience know like the backstory of the film, where the aliens essentially they arrive like 6 years ago and are pretty much here to stay. So we see like a night vision lens like with the soldiers, en route, and then the monsters, they do a surprise attack. So at first watch, I didn't recognize Andrew and Sam at that point, but then when I rewatched it, like yeah, they were there, which I was kind of sad though, like because we see like Sam, like she might be either severely injured or she dies, question mark, as Andrew, he calls for help. So the first watch, like I feel like you don't really care like for like who are these people and like why are their monsters attacking, but as like you do repeat viewings, I think you'll feel like that like sympathy towards those characters after what they've been through. So I thought that was an interesting choice to have like the end of the movie at the beginning. But I guess like with this choice, like he wanted to establish, that the monsters are not here to play, and like these stuff really, it happens. So also too, what I liked about this movie is the aftermath of those alien attacks. Like they're quite emotional because at different points of the film, like you see like, it's kind of like a wasteland, like kind of in a way like post-apocalyptic, because you see barely any people there, or like bodies are kind of like everywhere, like as they travel. Because at one point Andrew covers a little girl's body with a jacket, and yeah, like it's kind of like sad like to watch. But I guess like really at the same time, because the aliens have been there for quite some time, there is like, a sense of normalcy. Like there's a moment in the film where where Andrew and Sam are in the cab, and the cab driver pretty much said like, oh, this is normal for the aliens to be there, and all the chaos that, you know, it brings at that point. Also, to another highlight, like with Andrew, he is a photographer. So he kind of is like a war photographer in a way, because he, takes pictures of like the aftermath and all that stuff. Because there's a moment where like a montage where he takes photos of the kids like wearing like the gas mask, which really is kind of like sad to watch, because as it's like, their reality. But it does bring up like a point that he says that tragedy sells, because they do, I guess, would make like the audience kind of like learn more about the situation, or create some sort of like empathy or sympathy towards the subject. So because it also like, yeah, like it brings awareness to that, subject matter. Then but like with like the happy photos, I guess people could care less about those, which really does ring true to what happens today, unfortunately. But it is what it is. The film also has I would say like a commentary on like immigration, because as like the film primarily takes place in Mexico, because we see like, people, they are trying to like leave the country, and when they were at the ferry station, there was a sign that read "Passage to America ticket, no passport, no visa." So like it shows that, people, they have to pay a lot of money just to cross the border, which really kind of brings up this notion like, will that happen in real life? Because obviously like with the immigration situation in the US and Mexico, it's a bit like, yeah, complex, because we see like, like with citizens of Mexico, like they're trying to flee country because of, various situations. Honestly, yeah, like it's really a complicated situation with immigration and stuff, but I guess with this movie, like it kind of like eliminates those factors where you just essentially pay money without, having to deal with the risk. Unlike with today, where like I'm sure people pay lots of money to cross the border, but really that's really not enough for safe passage. Also, to another highlight is the visuals of the aliens themselves. So they kind of have like this octopus type look with all like their little like with the tentacles and the head shape, because we see them like more closely like at the gas station sequence, because so they kind of light up, which is interesting because you see there's two of them and they look like they're mating and they're glowing up, which is kind of fascinating to see, but at the same time kind of scary. And they seem to be attracted to light and sound. There's this scene where they are traveling with the guards and they are ambushed like by the aliens. So Andrew, he quickly turns off the lights from the truck, which kind of prevents the alien from attacking them, but like everyone else ends up getting killed. And I think that's what I have for highlights. But oh yeah, also too like the concept, like where they want to, I guess, focus more on the characters and what they have to do to, get to safe passage is interesting. Because I bet though if this was made by like a big budget studio, it would be more, I would say, action based. But I like how, like I've mentioned, which I'll probably mention numerous times, that it is very grounded with the storytelling. So in terms of lowlights, really what I have is the purpose of the aliens. So it's not really clear on why they're here. Like, do they want to take over Earth eventually? Or do they want to learn more about Earth? I think many would assume, like, the former, because you see a lot of these alien type movies. They want to, take over the planet and all that stuff and cause destruction and so forth. But if we see, like, in the gas station sequence, like, I think, like, you see, like, they're mating, but they don't really cause, like, a certain, like, threat at that point. So, yeah, which also makes you wonder, like, why are certain parts of US and Mexico, why are they infected? Why are they staying in one particular place where they could roam about anywhere else? That part was unclear. But I imagine though, like, they're trying to spread around, but staying in certain parts were questionable. And one could argue that even though, like, it has, like, a short running time, the pacing is a bit slow because there's not a lot of, like, action scenes or fast, like, pace scenes. But like I've said, though, like, even though, like with those moments with the monsters, like, it really does hit you, like, it's very, like, thrilling and stuff, but the director wanted to be more, like, low-key character driven, but just happens to be a sci-fi horror film. On to trivia. So let's start with our leads, Scoot McNairy and Whitney Able. So as I mentioned, they have amazing chemistry, but what you may not know is that they were a couple. They eventually got married. They had 2 kids, but they later divorced. So I'm not sure if they were a couple during production of this movie or if it happened before or afterwards. But yeah, clearly, like, we could see that bond on screen. So the film apparently was shot opportunistically with little to no outline of the scenes in their direction. So apparently the actors, they were given a general outline of the scenes and they simply interacted with one another and the other cast members, all of whom are not actors. So that really was, like, an interesting choice, because I imagine for majority of productions, like they would want to have like a script, especially like, if it's like a genre film, so that they could know the beats and all that stuff for the scene. But I guess really the director wanted, to have a more like organic feel, like with the actors and the particular scenes. So yeah, that was like a interesting choice, but it worked. The film was shot entirely on location, which is notable because apparently the scenes, like the settings featured, were real locations. Apparently, they were often used without advance permission, and the extras apparently were people who just happened to be there at the time. So clearly, the director was taking like a risk in terms of, lack of permission. But I think really like the end game for this movie, he wanted to make it more like realistic, to show like what could like happen if this sort of thing were to happen. So clearly, yeah, that worked in his favor. But in terms of the risk that he took, in terms of using non like actors and real settings, I don't think that would fly today, especially like for the big studios. But kudos to the director for taking those risks. So Gareth Edwards, he conceived the idea for the film after seeing fishermen attempt to bring a creature in with a net and imagining a monster inside. Interesting. So this movie has some awards and nominations. So most notably, it got nominated for a BAFTA for Outstanding Debut by a British Writer, Director, or Producer. And it won a Saturn Award for Best International Film. Yeah, this film premiered at the South by Southwest Festival. And yeah, like clearly, like, the film seemed to do well for its budget at the time. And I wonder though, like, if the film came out today, would it have got the same reception? I don't know, because it's a very small budget. I feel like it would do well like on a streamer like Netflix. But in terms of theaters, I am not sure about that one. I mean, sure, it could do well modestly, but I'm not sure it would have done as well just as it did when it came out back in 2010. So, with the success of the first film, it spawned off a sequel called Monsters Dark Continent, which Gareth, he executive produced. But apparently that one has negative reviews, as it removed all of the character stuff, all of the groundness of the first film, and made it more action oriented. I have not seen the sequel, but I saw the trailer and it did not particularly interest me, so I don't really plan to see it anytime soon. So lastly, I end the pod with this question. Why should this movie be rediscovered? Well, this movie is very grounded for its genre. It doesn't rely on spectacle, which is refreshing to see. It's obviously more character driven, and it took a lot of risk both on screen and off screen. And the direction and the writing and the performances were awesome. And I guess really it allows the audience to debate whether like the aliens, are they villains or are they like the good guys? I mean, you could argue, yes, they're villains because they attack people. But at the same time, do they want to take over the planet, or they just want to, hang out? I mean, that's for the audience to interpret, but I guess you could say they are more as villains, but are they? Because sure, with the title, it suggests the monsters are the aliens, but maybe, like, the people are monsters, because we see, like, in the film, they overcharge a lot of money for people to travel, to where they need to go. And we see how, like, people are treated at that point and what they do to survive. So maybe the title could suggest that, the monsters are not just the aliens, but they are the people themselves. That is up to you to decide. That is a wrap on this episode of the podcast. You can submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com. Those will be read along with a recap of the season, which will air after the season finale. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RDMoviesPod for updates. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.